Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Miller's Military Moments. As always, I am your host, Master Sergeant Jason Miller, retired, and I've got my co-host with us today, Grant. And so you all know Grant. And what's up, Grant?
Hey, what's going on?
A whole lot, actually, which is why we're here with the special episode. And we've also got a guest with us today, Chris Peach, that I've had the opportunity to work with for a few years. He's a retired soldier, also aviation, and working on being a flight engineer, crew chief, and done a lot of things with Chinooks and aviation maintenance over the years. All of his combat deployment time has actually been in Afghanistan, and he was really excited to come on the show today. And so, hey, special episode. What we're going to talk about is what has been transpiring and going on in Afghanistan. And you all know me and Grant and Chris. Welcome to the show, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us some of your insight today too.
Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem. So we're just going to jump right in. A lot of people are, hearing from the senior military leaders. You're hearing from senior political leaders. Of course, our president has spoken, and the press secretary has given out a lot of stuff. The Pentagon press secretary has made several, appearances and statements, and so everybody's really had a chance to hear what they've had to say. And if you're on Twitter, which can be a dumpster fire sometimes, you have probably seen and read a lot of opinions and a lot of different thoughts on the withdrawal. And, so today, really, I'm partly, well, what we're really going to focus on is the debacle of the last week and a half. Grant and I did a show. Actually, I released it July 23rd, and we talked about the withdrawal, the overall just withdrawal from Afghanistan. And so I really just want to refer you back to that show if you want to hear, some of our detailed opinions on the overall withdrawal, because essentially we agreed with the withdrawal. And, most people actually do. They're not upset at withdrawing from the country. What has really upset a lot of people is how this was executed and the lack of a plan to evacuate our people if needed. And this thought that nobody up high had any idea that the Afghan National Army would capitulate in 11 days to the Taliban. Like, that is shocking to me and to Grant and to Chris and to everyone that I have spoken to in the last week. Everyone that I've spoken to, they're like, how do they even think that? Like, we all know, every one of us knew that that's what would happen. And for it to play out on TV like this, and to see that we were caught, no plan, not really being able to execute. We've got people clinging to C-17s, falling to their death from the wheel wells, and we right now have somewhere between 15 and I don't even know how many thousands of Americans in Afghanistan that we're hoping the Taliban have some heart and let them through to get on a plane to leave. That's where we're at, and that's what we're upset about. And so we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to, Grant, let you jump in here first. And, what are your initial thoughts? How are you feeling? And yeah, let's just start there.
A couple of things. First of all, the political leadership not essentially being absent, right? So part of being a leader is saying, hey, we messed up. We failed at this. This is what we're going to do to address it, and we're going to fix it now. Like, this is our fault. We know that. So this is how we're going to address it going forward. It seems like there's been a complete lack of that lack of accountability from them. The second thing is we just continually repeat our mistakes from even recent history, Vietnam, Iraq, the second Iraq, not Desert Storm, but the invasion of Iraq in 03, not having a plan to address what would happen once we got to Baghdad. Like, we get to Baghdad, do this historical lightning fast mission to Baghdad, and then suddenly, hey, what do we do now? Oh, I don't know. What do you think we should do? So it's a big mess, obviously.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what are your initial takes, Chris, on what Grant has said and
It's
overall?
very similar. I mean, you would think that at some point we would learn from past mistakes or how we handle things. And like he said, like leadership, like you don't go on vacation, fly back to DC to give a 30-minute press conference, take no questions. 30 minutes later, you're on your way back to vacation. And this isn't being political. It's just I'd expect it from any of them not to do that. You should be at the White House doing your job, figuring out how to fix everything instead of Zoom or whatever they're using to work this plan, or telling people that you're not that concerned right now because of Haiti. There's you got to still take ownership of the situation.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I'll address, that aspect of it. And listen, none of us are political advocates, I guess. We're not picking a side. We're not picking on the president because of his party. We would want the same accountability from anyone that is holding that office. It's, bad optics. And sometimes things are not just about optics, but sometimes they are. And this is a time when we need our president, our commander in chief. He definitely ran on, the promises of, hey, the buck will stop here. And he used that phrase in his speech. He did, but he used the majority of his speech um, to justify the withdrawal itself, which that's not what people are upset about. That's not why you were forced into coming from vacation back to DC. You were forced to come back to make a statement because we're upset at how the current situation is being handled. That's what we're upset about. And that was hardly addressed. And so when he says, the buck stops here, I think a lot of people felt that that was hollow and was not being honest and truthful. And he had a lot of blame to go out, towards the Afghan political leaders and then the Afghan army. And then Trump, had his withdrawal set for May 1st. And so it would have been even worse. So we should be happy that how it's going now. So that's not a leader. That's not the leaders that both of you and I are accustomed to in the military. I definitely was raised and took that on. If I made a mistake or my team made a mistake, that was one of the first things I always said to whoever my superior was. I own it. It's my responsibility. This is how I'm going to fix it. And we would go from there. So those are critical points. I mean, those are huge points. And then don't just leave and not take any questions and fly back to Camp David. Like, come on, like stay there, stay engaged, get with SecDef, get with Secretary of State, because that's really the Secretary of State is really the one that's really in charge of all this. Get with them, be visible with them in the what kind of room am I talking about? Like the situational room, right? Like the one picture they released from him at Camp David, he was by himself at a table speaking to his people on Zoom. Like, no, like get in the situational room. Let us see some pictures of y'all working this out and talking to people, and it's serious, and we've got to, do the right thing. So that's a big thing that we're really concerned with, and that a lot of, I think, Americans were just really upset about how that part of it played out for sure. And then your second point, Grant, of when are we going to learn is so demoralizing.
Mhm.
I mean, we have spent, probably 30 or 40 years focusing on post-Vietnam culture, right? And we've really, the all volunteer force, let's get the citizens behind us, support the troops no matter what, don't spit them when they come back, all that stuff, and for the most part done a pretty good job. So but when we build, that culture, well, we also wanted to be able to be not just proud of what we've accomplished, but we've accomplished things for the right reasons, and then we were treated correctly, and we accomplished the mission, you know in the right manner and the right amount of time. We had a clear mission, clear guidance, and we were given all resources to accomplish it. And you said, man, we did. I'm just going to use Rumsfeld's words, and God bless the man. He has done a lot of amazing things for politics and stuff like that. But shock and awe, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
that's what he called it. No three, shock and awe, and hey, we shocked them. We awed the world. But in realistic, listen, the Iraqi army at that point was so weak. Um, Not to take anything away from our abilities, because I mean we have some incredible abilities in people, but yeah, when we get there, now what? I mean, we won that part of the war, right? President goes on the aircraft carrier in May, says mission accomplished. Yet for 15 more years we were still there too. So right now what? We have to get a clear, defined mission answer, and then if mission creep is there, it's got to be clearly defined at certain points, and people have got to take responsibility when it doesn't meet that requirement. And when I think about the last 20 years, um, I don't know of any of our political leaders in any of their positions, cabinet directed people, that took responsibility for any of those things that happened. So it's yeah, it's disappointing. It is really disappointing. Listen, all three of us here signed up to serve for many different reasons. The two biggest I know as a common theme for all of us is, we are willing to die to defend our Constitution and our way of life. Okay. And we are also willing to put our life on the line for people that cannot fight for themselves, that want an opportunity at our way of life. And what that comes down to, yes, is listen, we fight because we love our teammates to our left and right. Okay. But those two things is what really drives us in the military a lot. And when somebody else is not willing to fight for themselves, and when we on the ground are telling you that they don't have that will, and you can see it, you can read it in history, as all three of us have with that culture over there. Don't make the mistake of leaving us there for 20 years and then trying to come out and say, I didn't know the Afghan army would just give up and leave.
Yeah.
So I know that was a lot, but that's definitely kind of how I feel.
It's just like we keep giving the blueprint to the next guy. Hey, you wanna win? All you gotta do is guerrilla warfare and hold out. Just be patient. At some point, we're gonna quit. We're gonna go home, and the people are gonna be left to take care of it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and Grant, you and I have talked about this several times. I mean, some pre-shows and some during our shows about, the disconnect between our military members and our civilians, and that, do our citizens have the stomach to really take all out warfare? Let's just go back to Fallujah 04 for you. And, at times you felt like, how are we not putting in more preparatory fires now? Like, how are we not just destroying these blocks of city that we know is full of enemies? And the politicians decided, well, there could be one civilian in there that we don't want to hurt, but we'll give up 100 Marines that end up dying or getting wounded because we didn't. So I know that may be an extreme example, but
Well, no, I mean, the first Battle of Fallujah in April of '04, that it was completely politically controlled. I mean, it was General Mattis and all the Marines that I know that I served with, there's a few of them that I went to sniper school with that were in that battle, and they wanted to, they were chomping at the bit to take the whole city. And then Bush said to stop April, whatever, 3rd, 4th.
right.
And then they had to leave, hand it over to the Fallujah Brigade, which was just a cover for AQI and Zarqawi. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the politicians get involved and we don't have that clear mission. And then we don't, because people fear that our citizens don't have the stomach to just to commit to full out warfare and let's win.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Was okay. He feared that the citizens, the US citizens didn't want or couldn't handle the Marines destroying everything in that city because of what happened to the Blackwater guys.
Right.
So he said stop.
Yeah, and that's a shame, and that's awful. And then and you're talking, see, here's the thing, you're talking 2004, which is so early in retrospect now, and that has really set a bad precedent all the way up to now. I mean, and we are what is it, reaping what we sowed. So we sowed that, and now we are reaping, and that is the cumulative effects of all of that is what has contributed to where we are with this debacle of an evacuation or a withdrawal. So, Chris, what do you think?
Well, I mean, even when the president came out and said that we had already met the mission goal, right, to make it not a safe haven for Al-Qaeda, to take down who caused 9/11, and like me and you talked about yesterday, if we had stopped in 2010, like there was no date, you know what I mean? And even after we killed bin Laden, they could have set the groundwork, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's going to take 10 years to get everybody out there, but you definitely could have started, backing it down to get, everything figured out and safely. And it might not be a good compromise, but if we've all known the whole time Taliban was coming in whenever we left. Even if it was just, secure a province, hand it over, but with strict, like, you have to follow this, you have to do this, or we move back in. And maybe slowly given stuff back over. I'm not saying that's a good plan, but with the inevitability of that, the Taliban was taking over or going to get the country back, you know what I mean? It could have slowed it down and maybe it got us a better end state. And like you guys were saying, the last time we did total war was World War II. And that's the last time that we really felt like we won something, And that was, you guys, here's the mission, make it happen. We didn't have to go, hold on. Like, and Grant, I don't remember when you said that you enlisted, but 2000 at Fort Benning, we're still learning how to clear rooms in infantry, AIT basically, by throwing a grenade in the window and then going in and seeing what's left. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not hold on a second. Let me make sure it's civilians in here or make sure it's bad guys first. But I mean, that was the kind of the mind state, that we had. And I feel like when we went to Afghanistan, we were never really we had to be fully committed. Like, you guys killed us, we're killing you, we're going to do it this way. Once we're done, you know what I mean? We go through the whole country, and once we're done, and give us everybody, you know what I mean? Don't go, hey, 20,000 is all we need. You know what I mean? They should have activated everybody, went through, did what they needed to do, and then worry about, everything else. If that makes sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And Grant, you and I have talked about the distraction that Iraq caused from Afghanistan. So because we had to commit so many forces to Iraq, it did divert from Afghanistan. I know the terrain is totally different, and really we weren't going to use mechanized forces over there anyway, but that's not the point of what we're talking about. And Iraq, caused us to not have certain forces available in Afghanistan to really focus on, our mission. And so let's go back to that. We were talking about what is our mission? What do we need to accomplish that mission? So the mission was to deny Al Qaeda a safe haven to conduct terrorist attacks on us and our allies. And then of course the secondary mission is to get bin Laden, right? We love the head of the snake, which we could debate that with the Islamic terrorist groups, the head of the snake. I mean, it was symbolic for us. We needed bin Laden more for us than we did to try to stop their organization from functioning.
He'd been over so many terrorist attacks up to that point. The embassies in Africa, the USS Cole, like, you know what I mean? At that point, it was symbolic, but as
the World Trade Center in 93.
Yeah,
this guy's this is the bad guy. This is our, for lack of a better term, this is our guy's Hitler. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so we've got to take him down. Yeah.
So, and really, I'm just kind of expanding on your point, Chris, because I agree with your point that, listen, we take bin Laden out and we have destroyed their network in Afghanistan by this point. I mean, they have no safe haven. Now, we know they mostly escaped to Pakistan, which really is another problem for us that we never addressed. We just allowed them to establish operations there, and then Pakistan, of course, allowed them to do it. And this goes into the total warfare, like, listen, if we're going to destroy the enemy, or if we're not, and we're going to allow them to be there, then fine, we accomplished our mission and we're out of here. And so just a little bit of historical reference for some of our listeners that may not quite understand the tribalism of really a lot of people in the region. A lot of people will hear, they're Shia or Sunni, and sometimes it even gets broken down smaller than that and into their tribes. So when you look at geographically, Afghanistan is a whole bunch of mountains with valleys or bowls. And that's where, the people would live. In those valleys and bowls are your tribes. And often outside of there, they don't like anybody outside of there, don't trust anybody outside of there. And for thousands of years, that's, who they have always trusted. So, it's trying to establish a central government as we did, just wasn't going to work. And almost anybody through history could have told you that, or could have told us that. And when you see that, okay, the Taliban are in Pakistan and they are just essentially rearming and refitting and retraining, and they would attack us, obviously, because listen, I'm sitting in an update brief, and when I was in Afghanistan, and the intel is, our intelligence is briefing us, yep, they are bringing over right now, they have about 3 rockets, and so we should expect them to launch them against us here in the next 3 to 5 days. What? So we know where they're coming from. Anybody who comes down that hill over the mountain gets wrecked. Yeah. Period. And then sure enough, 3 to 5 days later, here come these rockets landing on us in Jalalabad, where we are, Nangarhar province, right? Quote, ISIS. I don't care what you call them. They're all the same. So again, total warfare. We were not committed to total warfare, and we were, the poo sites. Y'all remember that? Point of origin for our listeners there. That's an official military term, poo, POO, point of origin. And so we would focus on trying to find the point of origin where the rockets were launched from. Well, guess what? They left 5 hours ago. They set timers. They did. There's no even anything left to go find these people. And the person who launched the rocket is a regular farmer or kid in that town that got paid $25 to go do it. The real bad guys are already in Pakistan having a barbecue.
Yeah.
And I mean, they even went as far as they were putting ice in mortar tubes.
Right. And then
they
it melts.
Mortar on it outside of freaking Bagram.
Right.
And they just, in the middle of the night, and they leave, and in the morning it melts, and then toop.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're like, oh, where are they coming from? And it's an empty truck.
Yeah. So those are the things that obviously, we were facing on a daily basis over there when we weren't committed to the full out war, and we knew they were over there. We know that they're tribal. They don't really care about the central government. So, yeah, Chris, when you talk about like 2010, so we crushed their network. They don't have, it's all blasted, gone away, whatever. And then we got bin Laden. Okay. So, really what should have happened. And, listen, we talk about OPSEC, right? Operational security. How much do we hear about that in our everyday military life?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Like, don't say this because it's operational security. Don't put this on social media. Don't say this. And which, hey, I get it. I'm good with it. Except
and then you hear May 1st.
Right. Except for when we're announcing our withdrawal, we just tell everybody we're coming out at this time and this way, and we're going to be like, come on. No, man. Like, okay, 6 months after it's done, sure, we can tell them, or we don't even tell them. Like, we don't even need to announce that we're out. Like, well, I don't know. Did y'all notice? Yeah, we're not even there.
The Pentagon press secretary the other day, what'd he say? And it was following when the president spoke, right? And he goes, within 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever, the first Marines or whichever Marine unit was coming in will be landing, and followed by 12 hours later will be the 82nd Airborne.
Right.
Like, he was putting almost exact times and units that were coming in to help support everything.
Right. Like, what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing right now? Like, I'm questioning everything. The intelligence of every one of those people at that level.
Meanwhile, Jason, if you call your wife on the phone and go, hey, on your birthday, I should be home, and next thing you know, your flight's getting held up because you could have gave away something.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting in trouble because I gave OPSEC.
Exactly.
So looking back at that, really we should have started withdrawing at that point in 2010ish. And that's early in, Obama's administration. So he really has an opportunity at that point.
It was 2011. So
2011.
It was a re-election year.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and he was non-committal to, extra troops and stuff anyway, but, because we kept going in these boom and bust cycles, right? We called them surges when we were there, right? We'd get the surges of troops. Mm-hmm. We'd go fight some people that want to fight, and then we'd withdraw. And that happened during his time too. So I think, there's a lot of things the senior leaders at that point and the political leaders were, I think they were being lied to either by junior leaders that were, training the soldiers, or not listening to them when they were saying, hey, these guys are not prepared to fight, because if you go back and listen to some of the generals' reports early on, they were touting the skills and the bravery of the ANA, and they're going to be ready to defend their country. And I just get the sense that at the full bird 1-star, 2-star, 3-star levels, they started to either misinterpret or lie higher because that's what they wanted to hear. I can't say for sure, but to me it's clear.
In 2013, man, like, we're flying them around, and you could tell by their behavior just sitting on the aircraft that they weren't ready. When you're busy, like they're doing, granted, soldiers all do this stuff, you know what I mean? But when you're falling asleep and putting your face on your barrel, or your buddy falls asleep and you're sitting there with a loaded weapon, hitting them in the sack. You know what I mean? You're only, sure. I know we all do it, but at the same time, it kind of shows the level that you're dealing with,
Well, right.
You're flying, like, this is on the infield. Well, this is like on the infield, you know what I mean? Like, wow. It's not exfil. You're going in to do a mission, and you're, I mean, Grant, you can speak to this, but you got your game face on when you're going in.
Yeah.
You're not.
That's
You're not. It's just I'm watching this and I'm at the ramp and I'm like, are you kidding me?
yeah,
Like,
no excuse for that.
Right. They're not ready, focused. I mean, listen, I've done plenty of air assaults where I know exactly you're talking about the same thing, Grant. You've gone into combat and then you're getting ready to dismount, or you're already dismounted and you're moving through. Absolutely. That is not what you're doing. That's not what you're focused on. How anybody could sleep in that time and then put your head on your barrel and stuff. Dude, come on, man. So this is exactly what I want the people to hear. These are examples that just us three have seen, that there are countless thousands of people just like us that have served, that have seen the same things from the ANA, to which is why none of us were shocked when they just got steamrolled. I don't even want to say it was steamrolled, because they just quit. They didn't fight. I mean, it wasn't, they had 300,000 people. And most of the time they had a 3-to-1 advantage, much better equipment. And they're just like, nope. Because let's go back to who they were willing to fight for, whoever was paying them, right? I mean, they don't really care about the Afghan national government. Historically, the central government's never done anything for them. So, the Taliban's coming back in, America's left. And so, better be on their side or we're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they thought, right? So, and something, listen, Grant, you and I have talked about this a lot. The one thing that sets the American warfighter apart, screw the technology, the weapon systems, anything, it is our will.
Absolutely.
It's our will to win. And that will comes from many different places. But since our country was born, we have always fought, whether it's differently. I don't want to say better, because it's not always been better. It's just differently with some type of tenacity that we're just going to win. I mean, we're going to win, or we're all going to die trying, because we're fighting for whatever it is that we believe in. And all three of us have seen in that part of the world, they are not like that. And we have to recognize that. Our leaders, our senior leaders, have to recognize that. When all three of us recognize it, plus all of our other teammates that at our levels and above have recognized it. So how did that message not get to higher? When the president said, I've been over there, I've seen, the troops, I've visited them. Listen, you three know what is a visit like that in
definitely.
your area like?
Plus, Jason, like, you go brief a brigade commander, you know what I mean? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You go to talk to a brigade commander and you know that you're going to speak a certain way, you know what I mean? Like when me and you were handling the barracks stuff, you know what I mean? There's certain things we did not want to go in there and be like, hey, but we're being told by our superiors before we go to this next level, hey, let's not bring that up. You know what I mean? And I feel like that, generals are going to talk to the president or whoever they need to talk to, and they're going, well, guys, you don't need to bring that up. We'll work on that later. I would like to make sure listeners know that, like, we're talking about like the ANA regulars, the ANA police. They're still brave people in those two organizations, but the ANA Special Forces were different when you did work with them.
Absolutely. Now, absolutely, that's a really good point. I'll listen. My personal experience was, I actually did a couple of air assaults in Iraq with the Iraqi Special Forces guys, which they were right alongside our guys, and it was a daytime raid, by the way, which was insane. A daytime human intelligence. We got human intelligence that a person, the high HIV was there, or HVT was there, high value target, and we went in the middle of the day and was like 50 feet from the target house, and these dudes got out and did some incredible things. So yes. And in 16, 17, when I was in Afghanistan specifically, listen, all of our customers were MARSOF, Navy SEALs, CIA, and Afghan Special Forces. I mean, that's essentially who in our aviation units, that's who we were supporting. So absolutely, Chris, great point. They were really fighting for their country. They were some elite fighters for sure. And they were wore out because there was only a few of them. If you think our special forces were wore out, there was no break for them. So I just hope that we got them out because they will not survive over there. But great point.
Also found it interesting. I mean, interrupt you, bud. That, you know, like they had women serving in their special forces sooner than we integrated women into combat too, you know? And I've seen reports where, you know, those soldiers have been left behind. Like they're still in Afghanistan trying to find a way out.
Yeah, I mean, the report is we've got 15,000 Americans left behind. So I'm not surprised that we have, you know, that many of our allies that are really, really incredible war fighters that have the will to win, but there's just not enough of them over there. So, you know, so let's turn the focus to, you know, we really talked about the historical and the stuff that we've seen on the ground, which again, it should not have been a secret to our senior leaders, in our opinions. And to everybody we've talked to in the last week or so, it should not have been a secret that this was potentially going to happen. So listen, we all, you know, think that we probably should have, you know, done some type of withdrawal 2011 arena time and, you know, going back to operational security. We don't have to announce anything. We can precipitously just, you know, bring our forces out, do our thing, and turn stuff over to them. And, you know, listen, when journalists ask questions, we don't have to answer them. That's the other thing. We don't have to answer them. You know what? In a month or two, we'll come back to that. I'm going to borrow the press secretaries. We'll circle back, right? You know,
yeah,
we'll circle back to that. But we are actually too open in that manner, and I think we've talked about that a little bit today. So now let's bring us to really this last week and a half as we have watched this unfold. The Taliban are just, they're not even, I mean, they're just driving through and just saying, okay, it's ours, posting their flag, you know, essentially. And then all of a sudden we realize, oh, this is not a country that we could actually have an embassy in. You know, I mean, listen, we have an embassy in Russia and we call them our enemy. We have an embassy in China. We call them our enemy, and they are. Okay. But this is not a place where you can have an embassy and they would actually be allowed to do their diplomatic jobs. And our senior leaders know that, but didn't realize that it was going to come to that till probably around Saturday. So let's talk about that. Like, what are your thoughts and feelings, you know, seeing us react so late to that part of it right there? What do you think, Chris?
still trying to put words to it, but you know, they took the whole country in 10 days. So how, like, middle of last week even, how did they not know at the rate they were moving that they were coming? And how are you going to go in front of everybody and say we're not going to have another Saigon moment? All that's going to do, all they have to do is be patient. And all we're doing, not just us, or not like us ourselves, but like our media, they don't even, like, the Taliban don't even have to take pictures or videos of what's going on. Our media is going to take the pictures and go, oh, look, it's just like Saigon. Look, there's helicopters flying to the embassy. Gives another black eye on the world stage. But they knew this was going to happen. I don't know what they were hoping for, if they thought magically that ANA was going to surround Kabul and make a final stand. You know what I mean? Like, any country that's got their capital making a final stand against the enemy, typically it doesn't work out.
Right.
And I just feel like, you know, this plan should have went into effect as soon as they started taking down major cities like Jalalabad and Kandahar. You know, they should, Mazar Sharif, once they started taking down the major cities, it was goals for us when we invaded. That should have been the signal to start getting out non-essential personnel of the embassy, you know, then go up the next level. And then, you know what I mean? They should have had everybody out by Saturday.
Right. How do we have 15,000 plus non-government organizations, NGOs, spread out through Afghanistan right now, not even close to Kabul?
Exactly. It's just
That's
piss poor
mind
planning.
blowing to me.
It is.
That that country, listen, even with the ANA police force, that the Taliban are around all the time and they're always doing car bombs and killing people. I wouldn't put an American anywhere in that country as a non-government organization to do any type of service. I just wouldn't. It's just it's not the right place, it's not the right country, and it's definitely a waste of tons of resources. So yeah, I think you're spot on, Chris. Grant, what do you think?
Let's just say that the senior leadership, let's just pretend that they did not think the Taliban was going to take over once we left. Let's just pretend that. Why don't they have several contingency plans in place for these type of events ahead of withdrawing everybody and getting our equipment and our people out? Why have we not planned for these contingencies? I mean, this is like 101 of military strategy, right?
Right.
Epic failure.
Epic failure. I mean, epic proportions. If I could figure out some bigger words, I would say them. It's Chris, you and and I'm going to let you speak in a second here, Chris.
Yeah.
You and I were listening to the press conference with the Pentagon press secretary at the same time the other day when he was talking. A reporter asked a very similar question, Grant, that you just posed, essentially, like, why didn't you have contingencies? And he said several oh, we did have contingencies, we had plans. That's why we were able to get these Marines in there so quickly, and that's why we're able to even do as much as we were. And Chris, you and I were texting during this, and we were like, what is he really saying that? Like, no, man. Like, listen, Benghazi, after Benghazi happened, they did form that essentially quick reaction force with the Marines for because one of your core missions is to defend embassies, right? So there's a quick reaction force that got formed after that is ready for something like this. Now, listen, the thing in Afghanistan is much bigger than that. But when this guy is sitting there saying, oh, we planned for all kinds of contingencies, but we can't tell you what we really planned for. But just a couple weeks ago, we went over some type of plan. And then, Chris, go ahead.
It's just like I said, how does the news tell us, right, that the Army is sending a quick reaction force to Kuwait 2 days before the fall? Or was it 2 days or like Saturday? You know what I mean? Friday or Saturday, they told us. So you know what that means. The QRF or the obviously the 82nd got sent over there, and then they just got to sit and wait. Like, how is that part of the plan to have them sit there and wait for the worst case?
Right.
And why do we wait till the city's falling to start evacuating everybody? If we were that serious about it, we'd have had C-17 show up before the entire city panicked and rushed the airport.
Right. No, that's absolutely. I was looking in my phone because I want to be careful. About. Yeah, I want to be careful. I want to be careful of what I say.
It says, hey, open source on the internet. It says that able to deploy to anywhere in the United States.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, yeah, Thursday is when the notice went up because I got the text message that said, here's this.
But you were saying Thursday.
Right. So boots aren't on ground till Friday and on and on and on. Got it. Yeah. Which is your point. I mean, that's it's too late.
And the Air Force has got this wonderful capability called mid-air refueling.
Right. Like,
you don't have to stop in Kuwait unless you want to stop in Kuwait.
Right.
You should have went straight to the airports, secured the airport. That's the main mission.
Yes. So again, this is something that you both have mentioned today about going all the resources, everything full force to do what we needed to do. No. You don't put 1,000 Marines and a couple soldiers in Kabul. No, you put all 10,000 now. You put 10,000 now, and you secure it now and forcefully. I mean, that's what you do. You don't do anything with a battalion and then 2 battalions in reserve. Absolutely not. You go in
Anything, anything
full
light infantry.
force, anything, full force, get it in there. Listen, helicopters, we need them bad, but the problem is we lost all the high ground. We had none. All we're doing is sitting the perimeter and cobble. So huge mistakes. We still didn't recognize it on that Thursday or Friday as a leadership, when us three and many of our peers were already recognized it. We're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, let's get there now. We got to get them out now. Like, so we, at that point, that was our only chance to push our sphere of control out past the airport. And we lost that initiative. I mean, we have barely been able to hold on to the airport. And now the Taliban are controlling that area. So yes, we failed in getting there fast enough with enough force. I'll just go back to our total warfare. Like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here, I'm here to accomplish a mission, and that is to secure. And if you interfere with that mission at all, you're going to, get 2 in the chest and 1 in the head, and we're going to move on. I mean, and if there's a big cluster of you, you're probably going to get a 155 round or a 105 round or whatever the case is, and we're going to move on. Like, I'm not upset about it. We're going to accomplish our mission here. And that's, again, that's right. And that's what we're missing with our political leaders. They don't have the guts to do this. So let's turn to, so we've talked about, what we probably could have done 11 years or so. And then we've talked about, what we should have done, up to this point, really seen it coming and done a much better job at getting our troops on the ground, pushing our security zone further, as much as possible, so that we could actually control something. Right now, we're depending on the Taliban to be nice and let people do their checkpoints to get in our planes and leave. Like, seriously, like that upsets me so much right now. It's not embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed. I'm upset. I'm angry about it, that another country, person, group is dictating what happens to us, our civilians, our citizens, and people that support us. Really? That's what's happening right now? Like, I want to slam both fists on the desks right now and ask for everybody at the Secretary of Cabinet level to resign, or you should be fired. Like, I'm angry about it, that part of it. So somebody else is dictating what we can do militarily and diplomatically right now. So I'm angry about it, because I know we have the capability and I know we have the will. Our war fighters are the most incredible war fighters still on this earth. We can talk about our issues within our forces, and us three, we do talk about it all the time. We're more focused on hands in our pockets and haircuts and uniforms and stuff. But listen, when push comes to shove, we have the best war fighters, and part of it comes back to that will. You put them in a position to succeed and win, and they're going to. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So now, all this equipment that's over there, 20 years. Well, okay, forget the equipment. I don't care. I don't care about the equipment. Let's talk about the teammates that we've lost. Let's talk about the blood that we have lost. And a lot of our teammates out there are hurting. They're, trying to, Chris, you're one of them. You're trying to, is this worth it? Was it worth it? All that sacrifice, years away from our family, teammates are gone. They're not coming back. I've lost several teammates in Afghanistan, a couple aircraft crashes, so on. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about, one, how you're feeling individually, and how you think. I don't want you to necessarily put words in your mouth of what you think other people are feeling, but this is, let's let our listeners know. I mean, like why we are upset about this aspect of it. Grant, I'll let you lead off.
I guess since it's so new, I haven't, or so recent that I haven't had really a chance to process that aspect of it. Because it hasn't really unfolded to finality. It's still going on. So I haven't really processed that part of it. But and like I said, I didn't serve in Afghanistan, but several guys that I did serve with in Iraq went on to Afghanistan, and some guys that I know lost their lives in Afghanistan later on. But I don't know. It's tough to say, because if you stretch out the timeline long enough, war is war. How long is it going to take for? I mean, I guess it stays with the generation that fights it, but then after that, it kind of, maybe their children, but their grandchildren kind of are too far separated from it. So I think we always, like I said, the further removed time wise we get from it, it doesn't stick around through the generations, as far as who lost their lives and what conflict it may have been in. If am I making sense with that?
Yeah
Okay,
absolutely. I mean, so Chris, let you chime in. I mean, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling? I know initially you had some, you had some concerns, man.
Oh, it's still there. I mean, with most of us that went in either before the war started or after the war started, whether you go once, twice, how many ever times, that's time away from your family. You're missing seeing kids grow up and stuff like that. So only for it to work out like this, if it's just kind of hard to put together, like you always kind of wonder, I guess, when you're, like as a private, or even when you're a kid, you're meeting the Vietnam vets, and you're not really, like, you don't know how they feel, about everything, and then you get to this point, it kind of, you kind of start getting a glimpse, like you said, we're also proud, proud warriors and soldiers and Marines, and nobody wants to lose, you know what I mean? And whether they consider this a win or a lose, that's, generations from now will decide that. But, it definitely feels heartbreaking. I've got a lot of friends on social media that's been posting, stuff and checking on each other. And, a lot of Afghan veterans are really, really down right now. Even though we all knew the ANA would do what they would do and Taliban would take back over, it still feels surreal that I guess it happened that quick. You know what I mean?
Sure. So,
and so
if you don't mind, what specifically do you and some of your teammates that you've talked to, like, what is it that you feel down about? It
just feels like all these friends that we've lost, were kind of for nothing, and because most 2013 we were there for a month when one of our Apaches went down, and there went a crew right away, you know what I mean? And or times in other units, even if I wasn't deployed, but other parts of the unit were deployed, and you're losing people, and it's just it's a lot of families without dads, moms, and you feel bad that, like, was the sacrifice worth it? Only for in the end it ends up this way,
Yeah.
Like it's not like we're losing right now because we're fighting them from keeping the capital or taking over the country, we just kind of gave up.
Yeah. That's, good way to put it, and a good way to explain a lot of how a lot of veterans are feeling, and could be similar to the Vietnam vets. And I definitely don't want to speak for them either. But I think we we have some type of similar, feeling. And I'm going to go back to what we talked about, with two of the main reasons why we all serve. And the first one was to defend our Constitution, our way of life. And then the second one is to, we're always willing to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. I mean, that's always been a staple of the American warrior. And so we've put, let's push aside defeating Al Qaeda, which we were successful at. Let's push aside defeating the Taliban. We were successful at it. We got bin Laden. But we also gave a lot of blood at giving them an opportunity at a better life. And so for us to see it collapse that quickly, that is why a lot of us are upset, and we start questioning whether it was worth it. It's because let's talk about people, individuals, real human beings here that we were dying for in order to give them an opportunity at a better life, and they literally threw it away. So it makes us angry because we feel like they have no respect for us. And Chris, I know like the special forces guys, we're a different breed. I'm not speaking for all of them, but the regular ANA, like that's what's upsetting to us right now, is that we lost teammates, fathers, sons, daughters, mothers, all those things. And they didn't care for 20 years. That's what's making us upset, in my opinion. That's what's making me upset, because when I think about all those years gone, and all the teammates that didn't come home, and somebody just said, F it, man, I'm just going to, throw my weapon away. I don't even care. That's what pisses me off. That's what upsets me. That's what bothers me, about all that aspect of it, not to mention our government just not having a plan right now to get everybody else out. I mean, listen, on one side of it, I can be selfish and be like, look, 95% of the military is out of there. There's only a few left, and they'll jump on a C-17 and be gone. But I'm not selfish like that. I mean, I want what's best for all of our citizens, and our civilians. And I Grant, you nailed it earlier when you just said, how are we not going to learn and to take care of our people, to do what is right, to take care of our people? Like that is what's so upsetting right now. And then I feel like these press conferences are just
covering their ass.
Oh man, just putting, lipstick on a pig, right? Like whatever you want to call it. Shining a turd. You can only make a turd, shining.
Yeah.
I just, it's upsetting. So I think, I just really wanted to share that aspect with our listeners so that they know, like, that's what we're upset about. We don't want to be there for war anymore. We're not upset because we don't have 200,000 troops there fighting still. That's not what we're upset about at all. We're upset that somebody else didn't care about the loss of life and what we have given, the sacrifice that we've given to give them an opportunity. And we're upset that our government has failed in its promise and its premise to take care of us and to bring us all home, civilians and military alike. So that's what we're upset about.
I'd like to add one thing.
Yeah, add away, brother.
Also, if you've done time over there, and Grant, I don't know if it was any different over in Iraq, but you kind of get to realize the situation for the people that live there. And like right now, little girls still get to go to school. Like I have 3 daughters, and it's something to think about. Is these girls are finally getting an education in a country that's really illiterate, but girls are finally getting to go to school. They don't have to completely hide themselves when they're out in public. They don't have to be escorted by a man so that they don't get, in trouble. And, all kinds of other stuff that goes on over there, that I don't think many people understand about, and that's the other part, it's upsetting is what's going to happen to the people who didn't want a war to begin with, didn't want to deal with any of this, but they're getting freedoms that now they're worried about they're going to lose. There's pictures all over the news stories where, Monday morning, there's men and women out there ripping down beauty salons and stuff like that are painting over unveiled women and stuff like that, and it's stuff that people here take for granted, that you can dress however you want, go to the mall, and you don't have to have your husband or your brother walk you around to be a target or to be, punished.
Yeah. Yeah. Grant, let you jump in.
One thing I always go back to when talking to other people about the culture, and this isn't all Middle Eastern culture. I'm just speaking from Iraq and the people I dealt with there, and it seems it's probably similar in Afghanistan. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but when they say God willing, inshallah, is that God willing?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So when we would talk to the locals there about trying to help themselves, trying to better themselves, hey, if you want this to be better, you need to do this. If you want A, B, and C, you need to do these 3 things. And their response was inshallah, right? If God wills it, then it's going to happen. And they didn't really put in much of an effort to accomplish these things, right? It was halfway, if that. So it's hard to explain to people here that have a good hard work ethic that why aren't these people, we've given them 20 years in Afghanistan or 15 years in Iraq to get their infrastructure up, to do this, and this, and really not much progress has been made. I mean, there has been progress, don't get me wrong, but I'm speaking in general. It could have been much faster. It could have been much more efficient, but it just, and maybe it's because they were oppressed by Saddam for so long in Iraq that was their only hope. Their only answer was God willing, it'll happen. We can't do anything for ourselves. God willing, it'll happen. So that just, it's hard to explain to people that haven't been there, that aspect of the culture.
Grant, I haven't even thought about that, and I have some experience with that, and you're exactly right. And that aspect of the culture has permeated to a lot of places. And so, I'll share this story that really drives and confirms your point. So I spent a year in the Sinai Peninsula, and we were, which is close to Egypt. Obviously, it's part of Egypt, and so Egypt has, we sell our hardware to them. So they have Apaches and they have Chinooks and stuff, and well, their maintenance record or abilities is not very good, right? They don't keep them maintained very well, and the helicopters don't fly very much. So anyway, somehow we got asked to a couple of us to go up and visit their maintenance facility and sit in their meetings and try to just figure out what we could do to help them. Okay. Listen, long story short was they said exactly what you just said with their aircraft. Well, this one was broken, but we're going to go out tomorrow and inshallah it will fly.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to. And I'm not, demeaning God here, because I believe in God myself. But God, there's a very stark difference, obviously, how we view it in our culture and theirs. And they will absolutely, they'll just be like, well, inshallah, God willing, it'll happen. No, you have to do step A, B, and C, like you were saying. And especially with maintaining a helicopter that shouldn't even fly anyway, because it's, rotors and it's all crazy. You better maintain it or it ain't going to work. And I was blown away. And we basically ended up leaving, and just like we'd said a couple things to make it look like, okay, we did something, but they didn't care. They weren't going
Yeah.
to go do those things. Just like you said, the Iraqi people were the same way. Afghanistan is very similar. It's very similar thing in that culture is that, well, God willing, I mean, we talk about opening doors for us. We'll mention that sometimes God will open a door for you, but we also believe that it's our responsibility to go through the door
Yeah.
and take advantage of whatever it is that he has provided for us. And sometimes it's not as obvious to us that he even provided something for us to take advantage of. But that's definitely a different interpretation of, between cultures. And that is such an excellent point, Grant. I mean, that is, I mean, it is huge, and that is how they believed. And so that is a big part of their failure in our eyes, in their country, which is why it wasn't going to be, quote, successful. So
Right.
that's a good point. Chris, what you got?
I just find the maintenance part funny. A helicopter is not going to work if you don't put your hands on it. And if it does, if God's willing for it to take off the ground, it ain't going to make it very far.
Nope, it's not. Yeah, that was one of the mind blowing, events that I've been through. I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, I wouldn't even know where to start at this point with this aircraft right now. Like, it has been sitting out there for so long. And yeah, they're, well, inshallah, can we go get some tea now? We're like, no, we gotta, like, let's go out to the aircraft. And they're like, oh, it's tea time. I'm, oh geez, like, okay, hey, when can we get back to South Camp by happy hour? Or, like, anyway. All right. So I think we're gonna, start wrapping this up. Man, an incredible opportunity, unfortunate opportunity, honestly, to bring y'all on. I wish we didn't have to bring us on for this special episode. But I personally, thank you both. This was short notice. Grant, you had a really busy day. Chris, you're at work right now, and you're joining in and contributing to this conversation, which is awesome. And thank you all so much. I'm supposed to be packing for my road trip tomorrow, but that's okay. I'm going to get it done. I thought this was really, really important for us to do. And, I'm going to give a shout out to Jarhead Marine out there on Twitter. He asked us if we were going to do it because he was looking forward to it. He thinks it's important. He likes our platform and, what we have to say. So shout out to you, Jarhead. We got together and we got a show out, and hopefully, you've enjoyed our take on it and our opinions and our thoughts, and hopefully maybe our senior leaders will even listen to it, and who knows, make some changes. I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a loss for a lot of it, honestly. Yeah. I feel like they're all owned by somebody else, and it ain't us or the voters anymore. So anyway, all right. Last word, Chris, go.
I just want everybody to keep their thoughts with the Afghan people right now while they're going through this. And I want to thank you again for bringing me on. And I've had a blast. And Grant, it was good talking with you also.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Man, you too.
Thanks for coming, Chris. It's been great to have you on. And absolutely good last thoughts. Grant, what's your last thoughts?
We just, as a nation, we need to be paying attention to this, because this can unfold into other events that could snowball into bigger things. So this is something to keep our eye on for sure.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. We just had, Patrick O'Donnell on, and we did talk a little bit about the extension of some of these things, and really, listen, China, what we're really talking about is China. They're taking advantage of this, and we as a nation need to keep our eye on the ball. We need to keep our eye on the ball There's other things happening in the world, and we do need to be focused on it. So that's absolutely perfect. Chris.
I saw something interesting today, just one last thing, but and if you kind of think about it, it kind of seems like this happens, but usually when we're all distracted by one thing, you got to wonder, like Grant said, what's going on, the big picture, or even different, what's going on in DC right now? What's got them? Why are we getting distracted by this at this moment?
Yep, for sure. Was it a plan? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. What is a plan by some of our politicians to allow this to happen, to distract us from other things? I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm just yes, let's be aware. Let's keep focused on a lot of other things. All right. So my final thoughts are this is devastating. It makes me angry. It's emotional. I'm sad. I'm upset. There's a lot of things, and we've shared them all on the show today. Listen, veteran families, this is to you. Your service has been, and always will be worth it. Period. No matter where our politicians send us, no matter what they ask us to do, you step up to the fight and deliver that decisive blow when asked to, when told to, and when given the right resources to do it. It's up to whoever else after that to decide whether we did the right thing or was it right to stay, to go. It doesn't matter to me and you in a sense. You did what you were told. You served honorably. You were heroic. Your families are heroic. And I don't want anybody to think differently, less of their service, less of their time in Afghanistan, to think that it wasn't worth it. It was on the micro level, no matter what. At a minimum, it was worth it on that level. We did what we had to do. None of this is our fault. We were exceptional at what we were asked and told to do with limited resources and limited mission focus. So please continue to reach out to each other. I've talked to so many of my friends and veterans in this past week. I'm grateful for that. Continue to reach out to each other, check on each other, but know that your sacrifices are worth it and are valued and appreciated. And we love you, all of you, your families, and thank you so much for being our teammates, out there on the front lines over the last 20 years. So thank you so much. Thanks everybody for tuning into this special episode of Miller's Military Moments, co-hosted with Grant, special guest Chris Peach. I'm just going to end it like that. Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody. Let's stay connected, stay together, and together we can accomplish a lot. Divided, we can't. Okay? So connect with each other, reach out, help each other. Let's be there for each other. And hopefully everybody is doing okay, having a good day, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.